welcome to a very crisp and clear morning here in the beautiful bush capital of Australia. Directly behind me is Parliament House, where all major political decisions by the Australian government are made. Today is a very bittersweet moment for me and for all Australian aviators, as today is the final departure of the Boeing 717 from here in Canberra back to Sydney. It isn't the last flight of the 717, but it's the last departure from Canberra to Sydney. Come join with me. Let's see how QantasLink do. The last time I flew on board a Boeing 717 was roughly 6 months ago, the same day as the inauguration of the QantasLink Airbus A220, and from that day I knew the countdown to the Boeing 717's retirement had commenced. Over the coming months, more and more 717s were retired from the QantasLink fleet, until finally only 2 aircraft remain. Approximately 2 weeks prior to this video's filming, I discovered on Reddit, yes, I used that website, that the final flight was going to be on October 26. However, when I looked at the Qantas website to get on board this flight, and I saw the price, yeah, it was way too much as a justification to travel on the last flight, considering the New Zealand trip I had coming up. However, I wasn't going to miss out on the occasion, so I did some research. I later discovered that the aircraft operating the final flight would also be flying a plethora of different routes earlier in the day. None of them struck out to me as significant until I saw the last Canberra to Sydney flight, and I knew that that would be the one. Back to present day, I found myself in Canberra on a freezing -2-degree morning heading to the airport. Getting to the airport from the city is a fairly simple task, with only 3 options available: bus, taxi or car. I chose a quick Uber ride which only costed me $15. Canberra Airport, despite being an international airport, only has 1 terminal, which it isn't odd considering the size of the airport. Upon arriving, I quickly proceeded inside to check in. Qantas's check-in area is off to the right-hand side of the building, adjacent to Jetstar. As I hold Qantas Silver status, I am entitled to use the business class lane for check-in. However, upon reaching the front of the queue, I was whisked away by a ground staff member, and the check-in process was carried out by her. I was told to drop off my bag in front while she dealt with the check-in process. Once my bag was sent away, I was handed my boarding pass and was sent off to security, which conveniently is located in the very centre of the building, adjacent to the Virgin check-in counters. Once I had cleared security, I quickly made my way to the gate for this morning's flight. Post-security, Canberra Airport is laid out like a giant arc, with Qantas and QantasLink gates to the right, whilst Virgin, Link Airways and everyone else are off to the left. This includes the lounges, of which there are 3, the Virgin Lounge and 2 Qantas lounges. Unfortunately, none of which I have access to today, but that doesn't really concern me. Soon the star of the show arrived from Sydney. Before we continue, let's talk about the aircraft we are about to fly on. The Boeing 717 has its roots dating back to the 1960s, with its predecessor being the DC-9. By the 1980s, McDonnell Douglas realized that there was a need to modernize the DC-9 line of aircraft in order to compete with newer aircraft such as the Boeing 737 and Airbus A320. And thus, the MD-80 or Mad Dog was born. To give airlines more options, a shortened version of this aircraft was developed. At the Paris Air Show of 1991, the MD-95 was shown to the public, with a remarkable resemblance to its predecessor. However, there were a few changes, such as updated Rolls-Royce engines, a beaver tail cone, and a slightly longer fuselage. In 1997, Boeing bought the entire company of McDonnell Douglas, including that of its aircraft. With this in mind, Boeing decided to rename the MD-95 to the Boeing 717. Production of this aircraft type continued up until 2006, with the last airframe being built in California and delivered brand new to QantasLink. Pulling in on stand today is a 20-year-old Boeing 717 registered as Victor Hotel Yankee Quebec Sierra. She was built at the Boeing Long Beach plant in California in January 2004. She first flew for Midwest Airlines under November 916 Mike Echo in March of 2004. She was then briefly moved to Victorville for approximately 6 months, before moving to Mexicana Click in June of 2009 under X-Ray Alpha Charlie Lima Echo. She went back to Victorville before being transferred to QantasLink in September of 2013 under her current registration. And finally, on October 26, which is today's date, she will be retired from the QantasLink fleet, being sold to Delta Airlines for parts. Boarding this morning commenced on time from Gate 11. QantasLink's 717s have two different configurations depending on the aircraft registration, and in this particular one being in a 2-class configuration. There were 12 business class seats arranged in a 2-2 layout and 98 economy class seats arranged in a 2-3 layout. This morning I was seated in 20 Foxtrot, the final seat with a view of the engine. The economy class seat had 31 inches of pitch and 18 inches of width. There was a standard tray table which folded down from the back of the seat and extended. In the seat pocket there was a safety card, magazine and an air sickness bag. Above were individual reading lights, air vents and a flight attendant call button. The seats had movable headrests which were moved up and down with wing flaps which held your head in place. Lastly, being seated in 20 Foxtrot gave me a spectacular view of the engine fan blades, and in the distance at Gate 9 is the replacement aircraft to the 717, the Airbus A220.
Good morning and welcome everyone. My name is Noah. Joining me in the cabin today is Sarah Kennedy. Your captain is Pete Tink and your first officer is Alexander Banks. We would like to welcome back our Qantas and One World frequent flyers along with our...
Soon the safety briefing commenced, and we pushed back for the last time from Gate 11, 14 minutes behind our scheduled departure time.
In case of unexpected turbulence. In the unlikely event of an emergency, you should be familiar with the brace position appropriate to your seat. If you can reach the seat in front for attracting attention, make sure you only inflate your life jacket as you leave the aircraft. Take a moment now to look where your life jacket is located. If you're unsure, please ask the cabin crew. is upright.
We taxied to runway 17 via Bravo and Echo. Now please enjoy this final passenger-carrying takeoff of the Boeing 717 out of Canberra Airport. Once in the air, we turned right slightly, then made a full 180-degree turn, setting up a northeasterly course for Sydney. Flight time today is 35 minutes, covering a distance of 212 miles or 341 kilometers, cruising very briefly at 23,000 feet. During our initial right-hand turn, in the distance was the Berindabella mountain ranges, which at its peak sits 1,913 meters above sea level. This was then followed by Bungendore and Lake George, which is considered to be among the clearest and cleanest of lakes in the world. However, from looking at it from the air, I'm not so sure about that. Whilst flying over Goulburn, which is one of the largest towns between Sydney and Canberra, we were served a light snack, which in this morning's case was a rock and roll cookie, as well as a selection of drinks. In my case, I asked for an orange juice. The cookie had great flavour with chunks of chocolate throughout. My only criticism is that because the cookie was refrigerated, it was rock solid. On board the aircraft were 2 bathrooms, one for business behind the cockpit and one at the rear for economy. Inside was everything typical for this aircraft type, including the Qantas branded hand soap and more air sickness bags. However, as you can see, the bathroom was a little worn. Soon we commenced our descent into Sydney. The descent into Sydney today was quite stunning, as not only was the weather pristine for flying, but we also made a series of left and right-hand turns to align with the runway, as is typical for flying into Sydney from the southwest. This included seeing some of Sydney's most iconic landmarks, such as Cronulla Beach, Sydney Kingsford Smith International Airport, the Central Business District, Bondi Beach, Manly Beach, Parramatta, and more. I was glued to my window the entire time. Usually I would have some sort of headphone or earbuds in to drown out the noise from the engines, as they can be fairly loud. However, in today's case, being my last chance to hear them, I decided to keep them out. Now please enjoy the last ever morning arrival of the Boeing 717 on Sydney's 3rd runway. taxied back to the terminal via Tango 3, Tango, Lima and Charlie.
Welcome to Sydney. QantasLink would like...
We pulled into gate 13, 14 minutes behind our scheduled arrival time. Having arrived at the gate and being the only YouTuber, excluding CBR Flyer, on board this flight, I was invited by the crew to hang around for a solid 30 minutes after landing. All of us were feeling extremely sentimental, not wanting to let go of this historic aircraft. Excluding the pilots, who would continue onward to Tasmania and back, none of the original crew of this flight would be continuing, and thus they gave me a bunch of goodies and a cockpit visit, and I also took a bunch of photos for them. All of the crew on board today's flight were as passionate about flying as I am, which brought a great mood to this flight. However, all of them were super keen on getting trained up to fly on the Airbus A220. Unfortunately, as the end of this video draws near, it is time that we say farewell to the Boeing 717, as this aircraft type now solely operates in the United States of America by Delta and Hawaiian. However, this is not the end of the rear engine mounted T-tail aircraft in Australia, as the Fokker 70 and Fokker 100 is still operated here by QantasLink in WA and with Virgin and Alliance. I guess if I want to experience the Boeing 717 again, I'll have to go to the Hawaiian Islands chain. Maybe someday it'll happen, who knows when. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment and subscribe. Make sure to check out the other videos I have on my YouTube channel. And also, I now have a Discord server. Feel free to join. The link is at the top of the description. And don't forget to ring that notification bell if you enjoy my content. And if you would like to see more, I post my videos every Friday at 8 PM Sydney time. And I hope to see you again in the next one. See you later!